is still on the Texas side, but will be moving in at 80 miles an hour. To put that into perspective for you, those storms may still be, or the strongest part of those storms may still be in Texas, but those will be in Leesville in about 10 minutes, Fort Johnson in 20 to 25, and Pine Coupee in about 25 minutes. So now is the time to definitely think about getting away from windows. Again, Vernon Parish, you're not under a tornado warning at this time, but with the straight line winds and how fast these storms are moving, now's the time to think about getting away from those windows and staying weather aware, as this situation here is going to start evolving pretty rapidly. I'm going to go ahead and check in, send things back over to meteorologist Kaylee Whitaker. Kaylee, do we have any new information now?
Yes, so there actually was just a tornado warning issued for the northwestern portion of Vernon Parish. It's pretty much connected to that existing tornado warning we were just looking at over in Sabine Parish. So this goes kind of with that same information if you're within northwestern Vernon Parish or south, pretty much all of southern, very southern Sabine Parish. Please get to that safe place, your tornado shelter. As Jake mentioned, you're going to want to go the lowest area that you can get with the most walls outside of you to protect yourself from that potential flying debris. At the moment, I don't think we have any confirmed tornadoes, but still we are seeing that rotation on the radar, so we'll need to watch this closely, and of course we'll continue to keep y'all updated as we receive information. But that's all that I have at the moment. I'll continue to closely monitor this behind the scenes as Jake's on, but Jake, we can send it back to you.
Thank you. And here's a look at that new warning box in place. I took the radar off to make this a little easier. Leesville, not under a tornado warning right now, but if you're in Anacoco or Hornbeck, you are now under a tornado warning. The National Weather Service putting that in effect through 11:15 this morning. So again, for those of you just joining us now, that warning has been extended for portions of Vernon Parish until 11:15 this morning. We'll go and put the radar back on, take a look at that latest area of circulation. And it's also my understanding here soon we'll have also potentially a view from the storm tracker as well as these storms get a little closer to the Alexandria area. So right now that area that of greatest concern is near Toro, just to the north of Mox Hammock. Mox Hammock, you're probably under this tornado warning as well. This is pretty close to Louisiana Highway 473. There's Louisiana Highway 191 right there running from north to south. And once again, the storm's moving east at about 50 miles per hour, so I want to give you an updated track on that now that that storm is completely across the state line. Let me drag that out real quick. So if you're in Anacoco, this storm will be near you in about 12 minutes. Again, quick moving storms. Now is not the time to wait. Now's the time to get in that safe place. Alco, you have about 27 minutes before this area of rotation arrives. And Simpson, this will be near you in about 35 minutes. The trend that we've seen today, we've been monitoring storms closely, even well beyond central Louisiana as they were in East Texas. And we've seen several areas that were able to hold their rotation for a few minutes and then kind of fall apart. And this is something that we typically see when we have a squall line of storms. That being said, we can also see other areas quickly spin up. So we're going to be monitoring that. But for now, the one active tornado warning that we have is for southern Sabine and northern Vernon Parish. If you're in Sabine Parish, that runs through 11 a.m. Vernon Parish, that runs through 11:15. Within Vernon Parish, again, that tornado warning includes Anacoco, it includes Mox Hammock, it includes Hornbeck as well. It does not include Leesville or Fort Johnson, but this does go out all the way to Alco as well. I don't think Florine is included in the initial tornado warning for Sabine Parish, if I remember correctly. We'll actually go back to first alert radar so we can see no. Florine, that tornado warning stays just to your south. But again, those areas that I just called out in Sabine Parish, you're still under that tornado warning. And there is a chance here we could see it extended within the next few minutes. That area of rotation still very defined, kind of getting toward the end of that warning box. Got a few more minutes on it. And that rotation there certainly still evident. I do actually want to take a look real quick, see if we see anything concerning on debris tracker. And the good news is right now I do not see anything concerning, but that's not to say, especially as we get further away from the radar, that we couldn't possibly have a weak tornado in progress. So I do, even though we don't have a confirmation, we have the tight rotation, a tornado could touch down at any point. It is important to go ahead and move to that tornado safe place. Again, no, I'm repeating myself here, but for those of you just joining, the primary storm we're focusing on right now is this one here across southern Sabine and northern Vernon Parish, where we have an active tornado warning, at least for the next few minutes, and we certainly have some tighter rotation to go along with that. A little further to the south there, still watching that area near Burkeville. Still looking interesting in some ways, and in other ways not so much, but we're watching that close. Again, no tornado warning here, but we do have a severe thunderstorm warning. Winds here could exceed 60 miles per hour as these storms move through, and they're moving fast. So I know Fort Johnson just got some light rain right now. The strongest of the winds are to your west, but these are going to be near you within 20 minutes at the latest. These storms are moving to the northeast at about 80 miles per hour. So a lot can change then. Now's the time to think, even if I'm not under a tornado warning, where would I go if I was placed under a tornado warning? And like I said, if you are anywhere within a yellow box, now is certainly the time to go ahead and move away from windows. We've had the strong winds today out ahead of those storms, and it's not going to take much to get even stronger winds to the ground as these storms continue to move through. We'll go back to that tornado warned storm in southern Sabine Parish, and by the looks of it, this doesn't, we'll actually go back, kind of see how this evolved. We've been dealing with some pretty strong rotation for some time now, and it's only gotten stronger as it's crossed the Sabine River. I will say this, I want to go back a scan or two, so this is going to be back few minutes, 10:51. You'll notice how these reds are wrapping in a little bit more with those greens, showing the winds away from the radar are getting a little tighter with the winds toward. Now, this was a few minutes ago, about 10:50, so that tighter rotation certainly a little more concerning. While the winds are still strong and the rotation is still there, you'll notice now how those red and greens are not very tight together in one place. They are clashing with each other, but it's more of kind of a line shape and not as confined as it was just a moment ago as I showed. So we're starting to see that rotation maybe broaden out. Either way, we've still got some strong winds with this as well. And even if this continued to broaden out, we could also see it spin back up just as easily. So it is going to be important. Stay in that shelter if you're already there until the all clear is given. Either way, even if we don't have a tornado with this, we're still looking at strong winds, especially coming out of the west. Kaylee, do you have any new information for us?
No, nothing that to add on to what you've mentioned.
So again, we're still watching this pretty closely. That southern Sabine Parish tornado warning has about another 4 minutes on it unless they decide to extend it. The one for Vernon Parish actually goes out a little further to the east, and that one expires at about 11:15 a.m. Not seeing any new updates from the National Weather Service so far. Looks like they're going to continue the tornado warning for now, but again, doesn't have a lot of time left on it. The National Weather Service in Lake Charles, kind of mentioning what we were mentioning a moment ago. This was a few minutes ago, and that rotation was a little bit tighter, but they were mentioning that area of rotation is moving towards the town of Hornbeck on the northern side of Vernon Parish. It does look like now a new update. I'll actually pull this up. I think I have this ready to go, but the Storm Prediction Center has just updated the severe weather outlook for today. They've extended the enhanced risk all the way down through our southern row of parishes. I know most of us were already under that level 3 out of 5 threat yesterday, but that threat has been upgraded for the rest of central Louisiana. Now everyone is under that enhanced risk. The primary threats with these storms as we see these evolve today are going to be tornadoes. These black lines here indicate that we could see a strong tornado or two within our area. We also might luck out. Really, that strong tornado or two can be anywhere that you see this yellow shading and the black hatching. Another thing I really want to bring your attention to is that wind threat. It's going to be highest near Vernon Parish and Alexandria areas east. Once again, these black lines indicate significant winds possible in excess of 70 to 75 miles per hour. So we're going to have to be watching these storms closely. Like I mentioned all morning, they are going to evolve quickly. They're moving quickly. Looks like we have a new tornado warning now. I should have just posted to our social media pages that area near Burkeville I was talking about. Now it has a tornado warning on it. That runs through 11:30 this morning. That warning just barely misses Fort Johnson, but it does include Leesville. So we'll go ahead and zoom in and get the details on that. This is coming across the state line, and like I said, these storms are moving very, very fast. If you are under that tornado warning in Vernon, if you just got the warning on your phone, now is the time to get into shelter. I mean, these storms are moving at 80 miles per hour. That's way quicker than they move through here most of the time. So you do not have the amount of time that you would typically have to get to that safe place. We'll go ahead and pull up that area that they were talking about. Again, this is going to be coming over the state line here shortly into Vernon Parish. Let me put a pause on this. We'll go ahead and get a track on this as well. I do want to double check, actually make sure that we're getting the storm speed right, but last I checked, these were still moving at 80 miles per hour. Again, very serious situation. Looks like maybe they're slowing down a little bit, but still moving very fast at about 70 miles per hour. So again, Vernon Parish, if you're near Fort Johnson, if you got the cell phone alert on your phone, that means you are connected to a cell tower that is within that warning. So you need to be in your shelter. So Fort Johnson cutting it pretty close to that tornado warning. Leesville, you are under that tornado warning. I'm going to go ahead and get this track And again, this is moving very, very fast. I have to clear that out and redo it actually. This is coming across the state line right now as we speak, kind of near the community of Burkeville, but now coming over across the state line. So again, this is moving 70 miles an hour. This puts it in Anacoco in 20 minutes, Peason in about 30, and Bellwood in about 38. I know we've got Leesville in the path of that. I'm going to modify this tool a little bit so we can zoom in and take a closer look at things throughout Vernon Parish. And so bear with me with just a moment. Manual intervention does take a little bit of time sometimes to get these tools updated, but let's go ahead and get a track out on that now. Again, this is moving off to the northeast. We'll get it through about Anacoco or so. So again, to put this into perspective, this puts it in Burr Ferry in about 6 minutes, Leesville within 15 to 20. Really, you probably have a little bit less than that. So to repeat, if you're under that tornado warning in Vernon Parish, we now have two for two separate storms. You need to be in your tornado safe place. That most recent warning that we're talking about now, we've got the area of concern now moving across the state line. It's a little harder to see on velocity, at least from my perspective. But let me go and circle that area that we're talking about. Very, very evident here on First Alert radar. That's near Louisiana 411, coming across the state line. It's about to intersect Louisiana 464, and it's heading out towards Leesville. Again, we have a new tornado warning out there. This is moving at 70 miles per hour, so this is going to move in quick. You really probably have 10 to 15 minutes in Leesville to go ahead and seek shelter. That area of concern right now, like I said, is near Louisiana 111. Near the community of Evans. That is Fowl Road right there. Black Gum Road is at the bottom of the screen. Get some more road names in here as well. Again, this is off Louisiana 111. Rose Road, you're also in the path of this. That's where that area of concern is near. So now is the time, again, to be in that safe place. This is going to be moving off toward the Savage Fork and Pickering area as well. And then we'll continue off towards Leesville. So again, very serious situation there. I do want to go back to the storm in Anacoco. Looks like we might be seeing, at the very minimum, winds picking up, if not a little bit more tightening of that rotation. Once again, over Hornbeck. This is north of Anacoco. That's US 171 that you see there on your screen. And I do want to get an updated track on this storm. So this is moving pretty much due east at about 50 miles per hour or so. I'm going to have to re-edit that tool real quick. So again, that's moving off to the east at about 50 miles per hour. So we're going to have to watch this Rapides Parish here pretty shortly. That puts it near, just out a little bit near Simpson within 20 minutes or so. Pine Coupee in about 30 minutes, and Sharp in about 41 minutes. So we're watching this very closely. That area of rotation showed some signs of broadening out a moment ago, but really, at least in this latest scan, looks like it might be trying to pick back up. Kaylee, looks like we have another tornado warning now out for portions of Natchitoches Parish as well to kind of cover that same area of rotation. That also includes southern Sabine. Let's see when this new warning goes to. New warning goes until 11:30 a.m. Natchitoches and Sabine Parish. Still that area of rotation I was talking about near Anacoco. That's the area of concern that we're watching. I'll double check that. And yes, that does appear to be the area of concern that we're still watching in those areas. And then once again, another area of rotation here in southern Vernon Parish, and this is going to be heading toward Pickering, toward Savage Fork, and towards Leesville as well. Kaylee, do you have any new information for us from the National Weather Service?
No, I haven't seen any new information since they extended or added that new tornado warning in South Natchitoches, but yeah, that's the latest information that I have. I don't have anything further than what you have already mentioned.
And Kaylee, what are your thoughts here on this area of rotation? Because to me, it looks like it's starting to try to tighten back up. It looked a little more broader to me a few scans ago.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it is starting to tighten up, and it does appear that our environment, there's a good bit of shear, so that's looking pretty conducive for potential tornado activity. So we're definitely watching this very, very closely. Of course, as I've mentioned, we'll continue to give y'all the first alert as we are actively getting this information from the National Weather Service. But as Jake mentioned, if you are within southern Sabine, northern Vernon Parish, this is the area that we are currently watching where we do have those active tornado warnings. But that's really all I have to add at the moment. We can send it back to Jake.
Thank you, Kaylee. And I was just taking a look at debris tracker, and at least for now, not seeing any kind of signs of defined debris here. But that being said, I mean, we're talking about some really tight rotation here over the Hornbeck area, I believe. Let me put that back up. So just east of Hornbeck, at the minimum, like I've been saying, we have some very strong winds. When we start transitioning, just note here on our scale, the greens show winds blowing toward the radar, or blowing from west to east. Here on our scale, the bright green is about as high as it gets. So when we start getting into these more teal colors and these blue colors, that indicates some pretty strong winds. In fact, I do kind of want to get a read on this real quick and just see what it's saying. Looks like radar's estimating about 60 to 70 miles an hour, and that's a little bit away from the radar too, that radar being located near Fort Johnson. So kind of taking a look at things here, reading some updates there from the National Weather Service as well. This is really starting, if there's an area that I'm concerned about the most trying to tighten up right now, we've got strong winds east of Hornbeck, north of Anacoco, but right here, just south of Peason, where you see those red colors there, those red pixels, indicating the winds away from the radar, starting to kind of dip into those blowing towards. Right here in this area is the area I would be the most concerned. If we had a tornado trying to touch down within the next few minutes, it's going to be somewhere along this area. So if you're south of Peason, northeast of Hornbeck, if you're not in that tornado shelter, now's the time to be there. This is heading off towards the Kisatchie area as well as Alco. I'm actually going to see if we can't get a different perspective here on this tornado warning. So it might be hard to see. Right now it's just looks like a mess on radars. This might not be the best case to use this for, but with this here, it kind of shows those the rotation within the storms like I've been showing. You can kind of see the reds and greens. It's going to be hard to see in the Natchitoches, Vernon Parish area, the area I was trying to point out specifically. But either way, we know we've got the rotation there. It's pretty strong. Looks like it's trying to tighten back up just to the southwest of Peason, just to the southwest of Kisatchie and Alco. Again, Alco being in Vernon Parish here, Kisatchie over in southern Natchitoches Parish. So Louisiana 465, Louisiana Highway 117, if you're anywhere near those areas, now is the time to be in that tornado safe place. I wonder if I can get some local road names in here. It looks like that area of rotation has just moved past Oak Grove Church Road, Port Arthur Avenue, Spears Road, that being in northern Vernon Parish. Let's see if we can get some road names where it is near now. Looks like that's a pretty rural area. But again, this is coming up on Peason near Louisiana Highway 118. Again, now is the time to go ahead and be in that tornado safe place. Not seeing anything right now in the way of debris, but that could change very quickly as once again, this area of rotation is looking more defined. It has been a minute since we've talked about the southern area, so I want to go back to that, want to get an updated track on it. From the perspective of the Fort Johnson radar. So we still have another tornado warning out that includes Leesville, that also includes portions of Fort Johnson. This one is just with how fast these storms are moving. So here's that area of concern. It'd be moving that off at about 70 miles. Ignore some of the locations towards the end of this. Again, these tornadoes or these areas of rotation are spinning up pretty quickly and also dissipating as well, with the exception of the one we have right now. So Fort Johnson, this would be moving close to you in about 12 minutes or so. Simpson in about 27 minutes, and Pine Coupee in about 36. I actually do want to redraw that area a little bit more northeasterly. So that's kind of the way that it's tracking. So Leesville, again, less than 10 minutes to be in that tornado safe place. Peason between 20 and 25 minutes. Sampson in about 35 minutes or so, and then Natchitoches in roughly 45 minutes. So again, we're tracking two tornado warnings right now. The one in northern Vernon Parish, kind of southern Natchitoches. This one has the strongest rotation for now, but we have strong enough rotation for two tornado warnings at this moment. So I do want to kind of get another look at things here from the perspective of both radars. Even if we don't have a tornado on the ground here, we've got some very strong winds as these storms continue moving. And again, they're moving pretty quickly. Looks like the National Weather Service in Shreveport's going to go ahead and continue that tornado warning. And it does look like with the latest scan, we've still got some very strong winds here blowing from west to east, but this rotation, once again, starting to look like it's broadening out. If you've been with us for a little while, if you've been with us since we've been on the air, you will know that this area of rotation has already broadened out once and tightened back up. So we could see this once again. So we're keeping a very close eye on this as it continues to evolve, because things are evolving quickly and these storms are moving very fast as well. Speaking of, we'll go and get another track on that northern tornado warning as well. I do want to get some updated info as far as storm speed. Looks like that northern part of the storm may be moving a little bit slower at about 55 miles per hour or so. So we'll go ahead and get a track on this. So again, northern Natchitoches Parish are still under that tornado warning, or southern Natchitoches Parish, northern Vernon Parish are still under that tornado warning. And we'll go ahead and track this out at about 55 miles per hour. So again, this is moving due east. That puts it near Pine Coupee again. Kind of looking at maybe two areas of rotation moving your way. Pine Coupee, you've got about 22 minutes before this northern area starts to move your way. Sharp in about 30 minutes, and if it holds together, Colfax in about 35 minutes. So kind of zooming everything back out, these storms are kind of moving at different speeds. So it is hard to get an accurate time estimate on all of them here in one go, but we'll kind of track out that south central portion of the line. Again, that's moving a little more northeast at about 70 miles per hour or so. Make sure I got that track direction correct. So that would put it right on top of Fort Johnson now. Pine Coupee in about 16 minutes, Colfax in less than 30, and then Alexandria probably in about 35 to 40 minutes. So I'll go ahead and clear everything off the screen. And for those of you just joining us, we're on the air right now because we have several active tornado warnings in place across central Louisiana. Most of Vernon Parish at this point is under a tornado warning, and then southern Sabine and southern Natchitoches Parish are also under a tornado warning. So this line of storms right here is what we're watching. Right now, the primary threat with the entire line is damaging winds between 60 and 70 miles per hour. And we're also having to watch the leading edge of that line for some spin-up tornadoes. We've had some tight area rotation, which is why we have several tornado warnings in place right now across central Louisiana. So again, for Vernon Parish, there's several tornado warnings out. There's actually two that cover Vernon Parish. Go ahead and get the times on those. So the first one goes until 11:30, I believe. That might not be, or that might be the main one. I'm going to go ahead and pull up more info on this. So it does look like this main one here that you see goes until 11:30. They might have just dropped the smaller one within there. And then the northern one that's in effect for portions of Sabine and Natchitoches Parish, that's running through 11:30 this morning. I'll go ahead and send things back over to meteorologist Kaylee Whitaker real quick and check in with her on the storms as well.
All right, so kind of as you just mentioned, I'm of course looking at pretty much the same area where we do have those active warnings right here, but this one down here, this is in Vernon Parish to the west of Fort Johnson, right in the middle of Fort Johnson and the Texas border. It's not looking like, at least to me, this rotation isn't looking too impressive out there, but of course we are still going to be monitoring it, as that tornado warning is actually a big warned area for a lot of Vernon Parish. So of course we will continue to closely monitor this, but at the moment it's not looking too impressive. This one that's further up north, let me move this a little bit so we can see that a little better. As we were seeing it earlier, there we go. So Jake was showing how one of the things that we look at when looking for rotation is that kind of curving right there, that red curving around that green. And you can see that there definitely is some curving there. We're definitely seeing that that potential rotation with those bright green colors there next to those deep and kind of more bright reds. So we're still going to closely monitor this, but that rotation isn't looking super great. So that's good news for us here in Cenla, but it could definitely tighten up pretty quickly. So of course we will keep a very, very close eye on this. And then just zooming right out real quick to look at that other warned area again. Yeah, so we're still seeing a little bit of showing some rotation right there, but it's not looking super impressive, as I just mentioned. But this is something that of course we'll keep a close eye on, and as we continue to receive information and new data from the National Weather Service, we will continue to give y'all that data as soon as we see it. But at the moment, I don't really have much to add on to what Jake has said. But yeah, we can go ahead and send it back over to you.
Thank you, Kaylee. And I'm going to check things real quick. It looks like we might be having some new updates coming in. It looks like Sabine Parish, you were no longer under that tornado warning. We'll actually go back to that here for just a second, and then I'll get some tracks on the storm. So we'll turn the radar off so you can kind of see the active warnings that we have in place. We'll also get the expiration times up here as well. So again, Sabine Parish, you have been dropped from the tornado warning. You are severe, or not severe clear, but in the way of any kind of possible tornado, the threat is no longer there. Strong winds are still expected for the next few minutes, but that line of storms is gradually starting to exit the parish. Vernon Parish, you are also under a tornado warning through 11:30 this morning. We do have some reports coming in from different sites across portions of our area and just outside of our area. Along the Toledo Bend, just on the Texas side, so right there along the state line, there was a report of a wind gust of around 60 miles per hour. We've had very strong winds today out ahead of these storms, something we've been talking about for the last few days. And like I've been saying, it's not going to take much to get those strong winds to the ground with these stronger storms. So again, right now, the two areas of focus are these two tornado warnings. The first one here being for Natchitoches Parish, the second one being for Vernon. I'll go ahead and turn the radar back on, get some tracks on these storms, make sure. And I will say this, at least with these latest scans, it looks like that northern area continues to broaden out. But like I said, we've seen this broaden out already and then tighten back up. So we're monitoring this closely. There might be some tightening trying to go on here, at least the winds coming from west to east, not appearing to be as strong as they were just a little bit earlier. I do want to make sure I've got the most up-to-date information as far as how fast the storm is moving. It's like this is moving east at about 60 miles an hour. So now that northern part of the line starting to speed up here and catch up with the southern portion of that line. Go and switch things back here real quick and get a track on this storm. So again, now this is starting to move it a little quicker. Still have that tornado warning in place, but hopefully if we continue to see that trend of it broadening out, hopefully we could see that dropped a little bit earlier. So that northern area of rotation, still watching. That'll be near Pine Coupe in about 16 minutes, Colfax about 28 minutes, and then the community of Rapides in about 35 minutes. So again, these are starting to move a little quicker. If you are in Natchitoches Parish and you're not already in your tornado safe place, that southern portion, again, really right here. So again, this is south of Natchitoches. Now is the time to be in that tornado safe place. I'll zoom in here, see if we can get some more community names in there. That area of rotation right now is pretty close to the intersection of Louisiana Highway 117 and 118 near Mink and near Kisatchie. See if we can get some more local road names in here. Again, it kind of looks like we're a little bit beyond what our map can show us here. So still watching that storm. Then we have the other tornado warning that the National Weather Service in Lake Charles is going to continue. That's for Vernon Parish, and that runs through 11:30. I do want to double check everything here, make sure our details are up to date. So that tornado warning again through 11:30. This storm now starting to slow down a little bit, at least this part of the storm is now moving at about 40 miles per hour. So we'll go ahead and get an updated track on that as well. So again, this is kind of moving towards the Leesville area. They really narrowed down this warning box with the latest update. So really Leesville here, right in the middle of that warning box. US 171 between Leesville and Fort Johnson. This goes all the way out to Simpson near Louisiana Highway 8. So if you're not in that shelter already, this is another place. It's time to go ahead and be in that tornado safe place. We'll go ahead and switch things back over to velocity. And as Kaylee was mentioning, this one is definitely a little bit harder to see. That's good news in the way that it may be weakening right now as we speak. That would be the best case scenario. But once again, can still kind of see that signature there on first alert radar. We'll go ahead and track that out again. This is kind of moving off towards the Leesville area at about 40 miles per hour. So ignore that there for a moment. I'm going to have to readjust the radar real quick, and we will go ahead and get a track on that. There's another area south of Fort Johnson I'm going to take a look at once we talk about ETAs for this initial warning that is looking a little bit interesting. So this will be moving near Slagle in about 19 minutes and then Simpson in about 30 minutes. Again, at least this tornado warned part of the storm slowing down a little bit more, now moving at about 40 miles per hour or so. This other area I'm talking about, it's actually outside of the warning box. Starting to see a little bit of an appendage there on the radar just south of Pickering towards Fort Johnson. Let's check on the velocity here and see. We're definitely seeing some very strong winds with this at the minimum, going towards the Fort Johnson area, and then some very weak winds. So I'm going to be watching this closely to see if this would try to spin something up, because if those winds going away from the radar were a little bit stronger, I'd be a little more convinced that something would be more imminent. But again, definitely kind of want to give you the first alert. Don't have a tornado warning right now for Fort Johnson, but definitely stay weather aware. At the minimum, again, we're looking at some pretty strong winds with this. See if we can get some Doppler radar estimates. Radar already picking up on 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, and this is probably about as accurate of an estimate as we're going to get, because that radar is located on Fort Johnson. So we're about as close to the radar as we can get without being so close to it that the signal is bad. So again, we have a tornado warning in Vernon Parish for an area that we were talking about just to the north of that. That tornado warning runs through 11:30. And it looks to me, Kayla, I kind of want your input on this as well. It looks to me as the signature here that was associated with that northern part, the part that's got the tornado warning on it, starting to fade away, starting to see things look a little more ominous down south toward the Fort Johnson area.
I agree with that. I'm definitely looking at that really closely at the moment. With the velocity, let me see. Let me get this back up. We can go ahead and put this full so you're not just looking at the top of my head. But of course, where I'm looking, let's get this to right now, that bright blue that's just south of Fort Johnson, right over here, this is the area that I'm kind of focusing on at the moment. I looked at the velocity just a second ago, and it was saying about 92 miles per hour. I'm not sure exactly how accurate that is, but at the moment I'm seeing about 75 miles per hour. Here, let me get this zoomed in exactly where I'm looking. So that's just south of LA 10. I want to say it just had up, just south of LA 10, kind of on that border of 171 and LA 10. Let's see what that velocity is showing right now. Seeing still about 75 miles per hour, 76 miles per hour. So this is, of course, something we're closely monitoring, even if there isn't very distinct rotation on there. Those winds, of course, are going to be very, very strong. So we could still see some wind damage out there, even if it isn't related to a tornado. So, of course, we'll continue to closely monitor this, and we'll give you all those latest wind speeds as they continue to update. But at the moment, even if there is no tornado down there, let me get that watch, the active watch and warnings up there. You can see exactly where that tornado warning is, where we have that red polygon there, straight throughout Vernon Parish. And of course, we're not forgetting about that other tornado warning that's down in southern Natchitoches Parish. So let me get that that velocity up for that one, see if that has updated any. All right, so still seeing pretty similar things as to what we mentioned a few minutes ago, that there's potentially some rotation, but it's not looking very organized whatsoever, especially now. It's looking like that rotation has died down quite a bit. That's in southern Natchitoches Parish. Again, that's where I am zoomed in right now. Let me zoom out real quick so you can see where I am talking about. And it's kind of looking like this area down here is the more interesting area to pay attention to at the moment. Even though that isn't within that tornado warning, we are seeing some very, very strong winds there, and for a lot of us here across Sunlaw. So of course, tornadoes are going to be one of the greatest threats, but damaging winds can do about as much damage as what a tornado can do. So we'll continue to monitor those winds and potential rotation, but that's all I'm really seeing at the moment. We can go ahead and send it back to Jake.
Thank you. And yes, I'm also watching that area in northern southern Natchitoches Parish as well. It did look like it wanted to tighten up there for a scan or two. Now it's kind of back to being a little more broad. So still monitoring this. The tornado warning does remain active for that area for the next 7 minutes or so. So we're going to be watching this pretty closely to see if it tries to spin back up. Again, Vernon Parish right now, we're looking at several areas, and I did just get an update in from the National Weather Service. So I do want to double check on things here from them. I did know that they expired a Vernon Parish tornado warning, but we do have 2 in that area, so I want to make sure that I'm talking about the right one before I make mention of it. So it looks like the one that they are referring to is actually that northern one that we've been talking about. Let's see if I can actually pull that back up here on the map. Things are definitely looking a little more interesting out towards Fort Johnson. We'll touch on that here in a moment. But this tornado warning right here, from what I am seeing on my end, has been allowed to expire, or will be allowed to expire, I should say, at 11:30. That being said, though, with how things are starting to evolve near Fort Johnson, you know, I wouldn't be surprised that if things keep trending the way that they are to see another warning. And to be honest with you, this is as tight as we've seen it so far. Winds are picking up both directions. We've got some pretty tight winds there, so we don't have a tornado warning here, but you already have that severe thunderstorm warning. Winds up to 70 miles an hour possible. I would go ahead and start moving towards your safe place now if you're not there already. If you're near Fort Johnson, on Fort Johnson, or just northeast of Fort Johnson, basically anywhere from Fort Johnson to US 28, kind of near Hicks, that's where I would go ahead and be moving towards that safe place. Things are definitely looking interesting here, and I'll actually touch base with the National Weather Service here in just a moment and see what their plans are. Here's another classic signature that we see. There's a very defined hook there that usually indicates signs of rotation, and that is certainly something that I am seeing here on the radar. So again, we don't have a warning here yet. Looks like that update is to the tornado watch. No tornado warning here yet, but I definitely want you paying attention. I want you on guard anywhere near Fort Johnson and just off to the northeast, because this has caught our eye here for a little while, and certainly continues to look more ominous with each radar scan. I'll actually put in a message real quick. I'm going to double check. This looks like we have a new tornado warning as we speak, probably for that area. This includes Western Rapides Parish as well. Let's see if we can get, so it looks like that's going to stop just shy of Alexandria. That warning should be on the map now, and that's for that area that we were just talking about. So tornado warning now. I certainly want you in that tornado safe place. That area of rotation right now is near Fort Johnson, pretty much right on top of Fort Johnson. Fort Johnson's pretty big. There's North Fort Johnson. There's South Fort Johnson. That area of rotation that we're talking about right now, here's a better view of it. It's near Mill Creek Road, near Texas Avenue. Again, right there in the middle of Fort Johnson. That's where the area of greatest concern is. I'll go ahead and actually back this back up. I want to get the latest info, and we'll go ahead and get a track on this storm. So yes, this does include portions of Rapides Parish. This isn't including Alexandria. This does not include Woodworth. That warning goes until noon. And those storms are still moving off to the northeast at about 60 miles an hour. So let's switch back to velocity where we can see that area of rotation. Right now, again, that's going to be right over Fort Johnson. That's moving to the northeast at about 60 miles an hour. So go ahead and get a track on this. And again, it is going to show Alexandria here in the warning box. I'm actually going to redraw that just a little bit, count for a little more of a northeasterly. Zoom that out real quick. Bear with me here for just one moment. But again, for those just joining, we have a new tornado warning. The area of concern right now is located right over Fort Johnson. And this is moving off at about 60 miles per hour. Track that a little bit that way. So this will be near Simpson within the next 15 minutes or so. Actually, do want to triple check this. I don't like how I drew that. Want to make sure that we're getting the best possible track out there. To keep those informed. So again, 60 miles an hour as these storms continue moving off to the northeast. That puts it near Simpson within 10 to 15 minutes. Otis in about 25. Boyce under 40. And then potentially this would be moving into Alexandria in 45 minutes or so. Still have some time on that. But again, new tornado warning out now for portions of Vernon and Rapides Parish. And again, that goes through noon. I'm going to go ahead and check in with meteorologist Kaylee Whitaker real quick to see if we have any additional updates or any of your thoughts on the ongoing storms.
Yeah, so I'm still looking at that main area over by Fort Johnson. We actually did just get a report of wind gusts 70.2 miles per hour. So as we just saw, it is very, very windy over there. This is that area that we're watching right there, where we're seeing kind of that bright green with that kind of more deeper green right there. That's that potential area that we're watching for that rotation. So if we can go ahead and get that graphic pulled up full. So the active watch and warning, there we go. So it's right within this area. It's looking like, as Jake was mentioning, it's just going to continue to push towards the east-northeast. It's, let's see how fast we are moving. All right, Jake, did you see how fast that storm is moving?
The tornado warned storm is moving at about
Yes.
60 miles per hour.
Okay, yeah, so it's a pretty fast moving system, and of course we are seeing those winds very elevated at the moment. So even if we don't see that rotation, as I mentioned earlier, those winds could do just about as much damage as if there was a reported tornado. So we want to make sure that we get to your safe place that's away from windows, because that damaging debris or that flying debris is what we really want to watch out for when we're seeing those winds this extreme. Let's get this zoomed in real quick. Let's see what this is showing up for the potential strongest winds at the moment. There we go. So still seeing, okay, just updated. All right, well, that's looking a little better. That update that just went out, not seeing as distinct rotation, but winds are definitely still very elevated. About 60-ish miles per hour. And as I just saw that the National Weather Service put a report out of 70 mile per hour wind gusts. So it is very, very windy. Please stay safe out there if you are over in Vernon Parish by Fort Johnson. That is the biggest area that we're watching right now. I'll go ahead and zoom out for a full view so you can see exactly where our current watches and warnings are. So it's looking like maybe we got an observed here for Fort Johnson. What are you seeing?
Yes, I just saw that update. I have a confirmation here on radar of a tornado on the ground. This is in kind of near North Fort Johnson. That debris right now is being lofted near Mill Creek Road, near Birds Creek Road, Dugout Road. Again, this is on Fort Johnson right now. We have now a confirmation of a tornado on the ground. Those velocity readings are getting a little trickier as we're getting close to the Fort Johnson radar. We get bad data when we're too far away, and we get bad data when we're too close to it as well. So again, confirmed tornado right now on the Fort Johnson base, and this is moving off to the northeast at about 60 miles per hour. So here's a look at that right now. Here's how we're able to tell that there's a tornado on the ground. See here on our legend, when we start seeing these blue colors, that indicates that debris. Essentially, the radar scans for objects in the sky, so it can tell the difference between rain, hail, and debris. When we see red here, this usually indicates rain. It means we have objects of a similar shape and size. Think about it like a bowl of Skittles. They're all very similar in shape, very similar in size. But then imagine a bowl where we have Skittles, where we have Twix, where we have different sized shapes, or different shapes and different size objects. That's what the radar's scanning. It's picking up that we have debris here being lofted by a tornado. We have tree limbs, we have leaves. Again, tornado on the ground now, North Fort Johnson. That area of debris, and this is a few minutes behind. So this is as good as we're going to get as far as an estimation of where it is, but this is near Mill Creek Road and near Birds Creek Road, but in reality, it's a little further to the northeast than that. I do want to go ahead and get another track on this real quick. So now it does appear, based on the debris signature, to be taking a little bit more of a easterly turn, and the latest debris scan here does look a little bit better, but again, we could definitely still have something in progress. Let me zoom this back out so we can get a better track. Again, this is moving fast. If you were under that tornado warning, you need to be in your shelter now. You don't have a lot of time to act with how quick these storms are moving. They're moving at 60 miles per hour. Typically, in our area, they're moving a little bit slower than that. So with where that area of debris is now, this will be moving into Otis in about 22 minutes. This is really, as it exits Fort Johnson, it's going to stay in a pretty rural part of Vernon Parish. Forest Hill, if it holds together, within about 32 minutes, and then 40 for Alexandria. With its current track now, it should stay east of town if it were to hold together, but certainly stay weather aware as we could see anything spin up along this line of storms. So again, this pink box here indicates an observed tornado right now on the Fort Johnson base. The latest scan here, at least with debris tracker, and once again, we're getting close to the radar, so we can't put our faith fully in this data. It's starting to scatter out a little bit more, not be as close together, and typically that would mean we might still have debris falling from the air and not a tornado on the ground. But like I said, with how close we are to the radar, this data is getting messy, it's getting hard to read, and we just cannot buy that scenario just yet. So for now, I would still assume that there is a tornado on the ground just east of Fort Johnson, probably still moving through the base, or definitely still moving through the base. There's the Fort Johnson radar, which is on the base. That's why we're starting to see that data get messy. When we get too close, we just don't have a good read. So that tornado warning remains in effect. I think the one good product that we have now that's kind of illustrating the picture here is our reflectivity, showing where that area of rotation is right now, just to the west, southwest of the radar, maybe right there. I think that lines up a little bit better with that area of rotation, or that area of debris. And yes, this right here is where we likely still have that tornado on the ground, and this is going to continue moving off to the northeast. So LeCamp, you need to be in your shelter. Hicks, this should just miss you, but you're still too close to call. You need to be in your shelter. This right here is Louisiana 121, just north of the Fort Johnson radar. Again, still watching that threat. We do have a confirmed tornado with this, so this is a very serious situation. Looking through some things here real quick. Now this is slowing down just a little bit more. Looks like it's moving at about 55 miles per hour. It is going to be switched to some data that's going to be a little harder to read from the Lake Charles radar. Indeed, that is a little bit more difficult to read. But there's that area of rotation. I'll go ahead and circle it once again. And here it doesn't look as defined, but this is looking at this from a much further away radar. But as this gets too close to the Fort Johnson radar, we're not going to get much information from it. That's where we have that tornado on the ground right now. We've confirmed that it has been lofting debris as it moved over Fort Johnson. And this is moving off to the northeast now, a little bit more toward the east at about 55 miles per hour. I'll go ahead and just verify that. And yes, it's moving off to kind of the east-northeast at about 55. So let me see if I can get a new track on this. So that would put it near the community of Otis in about 22 minutes, Woodworth in about 35, the southern end of that, and then Alexandria maybe the next 40 minutes or so. So we're watching this closely. We're going to have to kind of wait for just a minute for some higher quality data to come in. We're going to have to see this storm move. Right now, it's pretty much over the radar, and you'll notice there's nothing there, and that's just how the radar scans. It can't scan in its immediate vicinity, so right now, the best info that we have to work with is off the Lake Charles radar, which again isn't going to give us the best picture of things right now. But there's where we have that rotation. There's where that tornado is. This isn't going to be the exact location, but generally it's just south of Louisiana Highway 121, just south of Louisiana 28, just south of Simpson. And this is going to be crossing both those highways that I just mentioned within the next few minutes. This is going to be pretty close to Simpson, and eventually it's going to start transitioning over into Rapides Parish. Either way, while we're waiting on new data, again, we have the tornado warning in Vernon. That's the primary concern right now, but we're waiting on that data to come in. I do want to point something else out with these storms. Let me go back to my radar here. Go ahead and just zoom things back out and take a look at the storms as a whole here. We have new severe thunderstorm warnings out as well that have been on since we've gone on. I'll actually drag those details over so you can glance over those as I kind of talk about these. Both these severe thunderstorm warnings have what we call considerable tags. So there's 3 different levels when it comes to severe thunderstorm warnings. We have what we call a base severe thunderstorm warning, which is what we see the most. It's the typical severe thunderstorm warning. Then we see a considerable tag and a destructive tag. Both of these new severe thunderstorm warnings, which blanket Wynn Parish, Grant, LaSalle, back down into Rapides, Vernon, Avoyelles even, and Beauregard, both have what we call considerable tags. So even if you're not under a tornado warning, we still have some pretty strong winds with these. Doppler radar estimating winds at about 70 miles per hour. It's not going to take much to get these winds to the ground. Again, sometimes, the estimations are really good. Sometimes they're not. Today is the day where they're probably pretty good. Winds have already been gusting to 45, 50 miles per hour today, and it's not taking a lot to get the really strong winds above our heads here at ground level down to the ground as these storms move through. So 70 mile per hour winds are certainly a very realistic situation or scenario for us here across a lot of the area. So again, that's going to be all of LaSalle, all of Grant, portions of Wynn, pretty much all of Rapides, and then back into Vernon Parish. Again, even if you're not under a tornado warning, sorry, I can't talk today. Even if you're not under a tornado warning, it's still a very serious wind situation. At the minimum, you want to be away from windows. You want to be on that lowest level because those damaging winds can certainly knock trees down, especially at the speed that they are blowing today. Going to do a quick check and see what we have here as far as any potential data from the Fort Johnson radar. Right now, that area of rotation is still right over the radar, so we're just not going to get very much good and high quality information from it at this moment. And like I said, that's just how radars work. That's something beyond our control. But that being said, the Lake Charles radar still continues to show at least an area of rotation. And while it might not look like the most promising area of rotation from this vantage point, you have to consider how far away the Lake Charles radar is in scanning this. So again, still watching that area just to the south of Louisiana Highway 28. This is still moving off to the northeast. I'm going to send it over to meteorologist Kaylee Whitaker here for just a moment. And Kaylee, do you have any new updates or any new thoughts on the ongoing storms?
So I just pulled up the Shreveport radar. That's what we're looking at right now, just to see if it could be any better than that Fort Johnson radar. You can kind of see that rotation that we're looking at right here. Let me point it out. That's what we're seeing, kind of starting to see this red right over here with that bright green. It's really difficult to tell, as Jake was mentioning. It's right over that Fort Johnson radar, so we can't really see it too well. Maybe the Lake Charles radar could be a tiny bit better. Here's that Lake Charles. Okay, here we go. Velocity. That's not looking any better. You can kind of see right here where it's starting to kind of curve in there a little bit. This might be one of the best radars that we could look at the moment until it does get to a better location, not right on top of that Fort Johnson radar. But something else I did want to bring up, we did get another report of some thunderstorm wind damage over in Fort Johnson. Got reports of 1-inch tree limbs broken and shingles broken off. So although well, we did have that observed tornado, so this is going with that. I'm not sure if it is from that tornado or if it is just wind damage. It does just say it is wind damage, but we are seeing winds about 70 miles per hour for those gusts, so that's very, very strong winds regardless, as I mentioned, regardless if it is from that observed tornado or not. If you are within that Fort Johnson region, make sure you are getting to your safe place, because even if there isn't a tornado, those strong damaging winds could blow debris around, and that could be potentially dangerous if you aren't in that safe place. And just a refresher, if you need a reminder of what a safe place is going to be in these situations, you want to get to the lowest level possible with the most exterior walls. So you want as much protection on your outsides and on top of you as well. So wherever you can go is just going to be the best thing that you can do. So got another report. This is from the Shreveport office. I'm not sure exactly if this is in our area, but this is saying some more thunderstorm wind damage. This is over in Union County, Louisiana. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but we are just seeing reports of wind damage across the region. So although we're not seeing a ton of tornado warnings, this wind is going to play a great role in what we're watching throughout the day. So that's really all I have for you right now. I'm not seeing any other updates at the moment from the National Weather Service, but we'll just continue to watch this velocity. Hopefully we have a better idea of what it's doing when it does move away from the radar. But that's all I have for you at the moment. Jake, back to you.
Thank you. And it looks like we have a new severe thunderstorm warning rolling out for Allen, Beauregard, Evangeline, Rapides, Vernon. This is going to be a pretty large tornado warning. We'll actually take a look at that here in just a moment. Before we do that, though, we're finally starting to get some decent data in from the Fort Johnson radar once again. Hard to see if we still have a tornado on the ground. Still think it's a little too soon to get the readings there from our debris tracker, and even our velocity, or where we see rotation, still looks like it's coming in a little bit. But First Alert radar, we can still see that clear appendage right there just to the northeast of the radar. And this storm is going to continue to move off to again, the northeast at about 55 miles per hour or so. So we're going to have to watch this one closely. It could fall apart. We might not have anything to worry about, but at the rate and the track this is going, I mean, this is going straight into the Alexandria area, given that it holds together. So over the next few minutes, let me actually adjust this a little bit to account for some radar delays. This will be moving near Otis in about 10 to 15 minutes or so, and would eventually track towards Alexandria in about 30 minutes. So something to keep in mind. Again, These storms are moving very fast, they're evolving very quickly, and we do still have that tornado warning in place for the next few minutes. Right now, it's hard to say if we still have that tornado on the ground or not. The radar data, now as the storm is moving to the east of the radar, it should be getting a little bit better, but for now, still a little iffy, so we're waiting on those scans. But I would certainly treat this as if it was still on the ground. I mean, we've been watching this storm for a little while, showed some interesting characteristics, and not long after that, this storm was producing a tornado. We'll go ahead and zoom in, see if there's any clear signs, and not at the moment, but again, right within the immediate vicinity of the radar, it is going to be a little harder to see. That area of rotation now, at least from what I'm seeing on my end, isn't looking as defined, but like I said, I don't want to make any definitive calls until this gets a little further away, but it is getting a little further away now, and it does look like it's broadening out, which would be good, but I'm going to give it another scan or two before really starting to double down on that call. We'll go back out, we'll take this full, as we do have additional warnings to talk about. Not tornado warnings at this point, but we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning. The National Weather Service also hinting that we could see more tornadoes spin up along this line. That's been the trend today since these were back in north central Texas. We've seen tornadoes spin up pretty quickly. We've seen them dissipate. Some of these, though, as they've come into our area, have held on a little bit longer as the environment's just a little more favorable for that. So that new severe thunderstorm warning for our area includes portions of Rapides, the southern portion that was not under the initial warning, now under a new one. That includes a sliver of Vernon, portions of Beauregard, Allen, and Evangeline Parish, and that new severe thunderstorm warning runs until 12:45. Now's the time, if you've got an alert on your phone that you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, maybe you're not under a tornado warning at this point, now's the time to think, if I'm put under a tornado warning, where am I going to go? We can see a tornado spin up very quickly. You may not have much time to act, so now is the time to have that plan in place so you can go ahead and move towards that tornado shelter pretty quickly. We'll kind of go back in here. First alert radar still showing some signs. It looks like we might still have some iffy data here, but also still showing maybe the signs of rotation there, at least on what we call reflectivity, or what you see here on first alert radar that kind of shows us the rain intensity. That can tell us a lot about the big picture. Velocity still not showing anything that looks super troubling at this time. But really going to have to watch that area kind of near the camp as newer and better data starts to come in as the storm moves further away from the Fort Johnson radar. I'll go ahead and zoom things back out. Looks like the National Weather Service may have just updated that. I'm going to check with them for updates here in just a moment. That tornado warning includes portions of Rapides Parish, includes Louisiana Highway 121 near Afman, near Hineston, near Calcasieu. It stops just to the west of Melder. Here's Melder. There's Calcasieu. So through Calcasieu, really Booster Wright Road and Potato Farm Road is kind of the line where that warning stops in Rapides. A little further to the north, Otis, Seeper, Wilda, Hemp Hill, you're under that warning. This doesn't include Hot Wells, but this does include Sharp and Point Coupee at this point. And like I said, while at least from what data we're seeing, the velocity wasn't showing as tight of rotation, I'm still seeing signs on my end here that at the minimum we're looking at some damaging winds, some strong damaging winds, as this may be trying to bow out on this end, but also we could have some rotation there on that end as well. I'll go ahead and zoom things back out here so you can kind of take a look at the bigger picture. I'm going to check here for things from the National Weather Service and just see what new information that we have coming in. And again, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible across a lot of this line as it continues progressing off to the east and northeast. So beyond the storm reports that Kaylee mentioned coming out of the Fort Johnson radar, I'm not seeing any new reports. Looks like we might be getting an update from the Weather Service here within the next few moments. I see somebody typing, so I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that. But again, either way, severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning. We've got very strong winds with these storms. We've had several tornado warnings pop up as we've seen several areas of rotation spin up pretty quickly, and we're monitoring the situation pretty closely. From my end, I'm checking things out with a separate program here. It does look like we might have a little more, at least broad rotation than what we might be seeing in max at this point. Still, things look very messy from the perspective of debris, at least from what I'm seeing right now on our end. So we're getting new scans in every few minutes. We're getting new data, and that data is getting a little bit better. Again, still seeing some signs of at least broad rotation with this. I'm not as confident right now that we have a tornado still actively on the ground, but once again, still monitoring that threat very closely, still seeing some signs where even if we don't have one on the ground right now, we could see one spin back up pretty quickly. Speaking of, it's probably a good time while we wait on that update to kind of go down the line. Like I was mentioning, that one part of the storm starting to bow out, you can see this here. We use velocity not only to determine rotation, but also just wind speed in general and the direction. We have those winds blowing from the west. They're starting to bow out. And again, that's usually an indicator we're going to see some strong winds. These storms are already warned for winds up to 70 miles per hour. And at the minimum, I think we're probably seeing those already across a good portion of the area. We will actually switch to Lake Charles here briefly as it's a little closer to our southern parishes. The data here is still a little bit on the messier side. Not seeing anything so far that screams that we could have rotation try to spin up in these areas, at least immediately, but it's certainly a possibility as these storms continue progressing off to the east. Once again, the primary focus right now is this tornado warning. Not as confident that we have something on the ground with this at this point, but confidence is increasing that as this line continues to bow out, that we've got some strong winds moving with it. We'll actually go back to that real quick and get an estimate on some of those winds. Again, some of the strongest winds right now are now moving from Vernon into Rapides Parish, near the community of Leander, near Afman, near Louisiana 463, and near Louisiana 121. Radar here estimating 55-mile-an-hour winds, but I have a feeling these are probably a little bit stronger based on the signatures that we're seeing here right now. And also, like I said, we're moving further away from the radar, but we're still kind of close to it. So in a way, there's kind of a Goldilocks zone when it comes to those estimates, but I'm not completely sold right now that those winds are only at about 55 miles per hour. So it looks like we might be getting some new updates in on severe thunderstorm warnings. We'll touch base on those here in just a moment. It looks like we have some trees down in portions of Anacoco along Highway 171 and Hollow Grove Road. That just coming in now from the National Weather Service. And those storms at this point have passed. So while we're on the air, I know we've been with you for a while, just to kind of update you on the overall severe potential. Really, the severe threat is pretty much over, or at least winding down significantly for the Leesville area, for Sabine Parish, for most of Natchitoches Parish as well. And as this line moves east of your location, the severe threat is going to wind down very quickly. So for now, we still have that tornado warning. For the next
Jake, I do want your opinion. I'm looking into northwest Rapides. Yeah, right over where you're looking. If you want to pull up the velocity, I'm seeing kind of right there. You see what I'm talking about? That's something that's minorly concerning, at least.
I agree with you. That's an area to watch. And the winds are a little bit, looks like we just took a little bit of a power hit. So I don't know. We should still be going out somewhere. Hopefully we're still on our streaming platforms as well. But right here, the winds blowing away from the radar are certainly a little bit stronger. If this were to get a little bit tighter, it certainly would be an area we'd have to watch a little bit closely. At the minimum, though, we're talking about some stronger winds starting to move into that area. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely something to keep a close eye on, but of course not seeing distinct rotation, but of course very strong winds, which we are seeing for a lot of us.
Yes, and I just realized y'all might have noticed we had the power flicker here at the station, and we have not even got the line of storms yet. So we haven't even started to see the strongest of the winds just yet. There are some additional signatures on reflectivity that are looking interesting, but not so prominent on velocity at this point. So right now we've got about 9 more minutes with this initial tornado warning. I'm about to ask what the plans are for this moving forward, because we're getting pretty close, whether that be timing or the fact that the storm is getting close to the warning box itself. And we're far enough from the radar now where I can confidently say that I do not think at this point that we have a tornado in progress with the storm anymore. That area of rotation at this point has really broadened out. At least this area for the time being is transitioning more to a straight line wind threat. Not to say we couldn't have something spin back up in this area, but once again, or not. But for now, it looks like the tornado threat may be winding down in that area. And that area near 463 continues to look interesting. Looks like we've got a little bit of rotation trying to tighten up there, but not something that's the strongest right now, which is probably why there is not a warning on it. If that were to be a little stronger or tighter, that would be a little bit more of a concern. Looks like the Storm Prediction Center may be trying to coordinate a new watch soon, a new tornado watch. We do have a tornado watch already active for portions of the region. That does not include Catahoula, Concordia, Avoyelles, or St. Landry. And I would imagine that latest area that they're outlining would probably include those areas, and also Mississippi. They're probably trying to get the watch out. And yep, there we go. So a tornado watch, that says 80% chance. I have to manually mess with that. But the Storm Prediction Center is saying now that there's a 95% chance of them issuing a tornado watch within the red area. So for us here in central Louisiana, what that would mean is essentially we would have a tornado watch extended area-wide. It does look like the National Weather Service is going to go with that tornado warning for the next 7 minutes. They're dropping Vernon out of the warning. They're going to keep Rapides, and they are also dropping the observed tag. So this now should show back up as a red warning, as we no longer have that tornado on the ground. We did, though, have confirmation of a tornado as it was over the Fort Johnson base just a few moments ago. So yes, looking at this again, straight line winds continue to be the main concern. Winds outside of those storms, at least what radar's estimating, is already starting to pick up a little bit more. Right now, the strongest of these winds along the leading edge of the storms is near Louisiana Highway 112. This is kind of near the Afeman community, kind of near Calcasieu. Those will be moving east toward Castor Plunge, eventually off toward Forest Hill and Woodworth as well. So right now, that tornado warning remains in effect. The only thing that really jumps out to me about this is the way that it looks here on First Alert radar. There are multiple layers of radar that we look at to kind of make sure that rotation matches up. This right now is the only one that really shows that we could have a problem if this tried to spin back up. But right now, the good news is when we look at velocity, or what shows us the wind speed and direction, gives us better perspective of that rotation. Right now, just not seeing a lot in the way of that. It looks to be more broad for now, but like I've said, we've seen this along this line of storms, even outside of our area. We've seen it start to tighten up and kind of weaken as time goes on. Again, this line of storms, I should say, has evolved very rapidly as it has moved across a large area. So even though right now it's not looking like we have confirmation of any kind of tornado potentially in progress, that's not to say that one couldn't spin up here again pretty quickly. And Kaylee, I see you're looking at a pretty interesting area near Boyce, at least as far as the wind gusts are concerned.
Yes, it was just showing about maybe 84 mile per hour gusts. Again, I'm not sure exactly how accurate that is, but anytime we're seeing those winds anywhere even close to 70 to 80 miles per hour, that's when you really want to be careful out there. You don't want to be outside. You want to make sure to get to your safe place, kind of just treat it as if it was a tornado. Because although it's not a tornado, we're not seeing that distinct rotation. But of course, as we have mentioned, those winds can cause a lot of damage. So you do not want to be outside. You don't want to be outside looking out windows, looking at where we could see a potential tornado, because as we're seeing here, those winds are just super strong. It actually just shifted a little bit, when it actually broadened out a tiny bit. This is that specific area that I'm talking about right now. It's just to the east of Boyce, above, let's see, this is LA Highway 1, Interstate 49 is right over here. So we're looking at just to the east of LA 8. I can zoom this out a little bit so you can have a better idea, but the specific cities I'm seeing are Boyce, Rapides, potentially, if there is a city called Rapides, as well as the parish.
And Kaylee, real quick, just to give you an update, the National Weather Service in Shreveport has gone ahead and issued a tornado warning on that storm.
Oh, okay. Alrighty, well, we got ahead of that. So this is the area that they just put the tornado warning, so you can go ahead and mention that, Jake.
So yes, we do have that new tornado warning out for portions of Grant and a very small sliver of LaSalle Parish. Real quick, taking the radar off so you can kind of see the areas that this affects. This affects US 71, keeps it southeast of Colfax, Louisiana 8, US 167. You're not included in central Dry Prong, but this does go right through Pollock and through US 165. We'll go ahead and get the details up for this warning real quick. That tornado warning runs through 12:30. The area that they are pointing out is just southeast of Colfax. turn the radar back on here and we'll go ahead and get a track. And this storm here is still moving pretty fast at about 50 miles per hour. So let's see here. This here is kind of the area that they're talking about generally with the stronger winds. I'm gonna have to zoom this out. So bear with me here for just a moment. But again, this is moving off towards Pollock and towards US 165. So that would put this near Creola in about 8 minutes, Pollock in about 16 minutes, Gina in about 40 minutes, and then Reinhardt in about 45 to 50 minutes. It looks like this new warning that just came down does not include our area, it just stays to the north. But once again, for those just joining us, we now have a new tornado warning out for portions of Grant and LaSalle Parish, and that is going to run until about 12:30 this afternoon. We've seen some pretty strong winds with this, as Kaylee was mentioning. So at the minimum, we've got some very strong winds associated with this storm, if not a possible tornado or tornado that could spin up pretty quickly. So it does look like, it does look like we may have our storm tracker feed ready here in just a few minutes. So I know we've got a team of people in the back keeping us on the air, helping us out. So just let me know whenever y'all are ready for that, and we can go ahead and take a look at what the storm tracker is seeing right now. Do want to go down this line real quick. Still seeing mainly a strong wind threat throughout a lot of Rapides Parish for now. Not seeing much in the way of rotation, but like I said, this has evolved very quickly. We could see that change pretty quickly as well. So continuing to go down that line, again, strong winds does continue to remain the primary threat, and we certainly have seen the reports of the strong winds today. Even before the storms ever rolled through, we've been dealing with stronger winds as well. So again, right now we have one active tornado warning, or two. We're waiting to see if the second one will be dropped, and seeing those strong winds pretty much affecting a good portion of central Louisiana right now. I did just hear we have about 30 seconds before our typical noon newscast will go on the air. Are we about to take a live view of the storm tracker? I was checking in just to see. I know we're about to technically be in our noon newscast. Are we taking a storm tracker shot? All right. So we'll wait just a moment to see about that. In the meantime, though, we'll go back into those tornado-warned storms. Still not liking, while I will say on velocity, there's not much of a sign of rotation. Really not liking the look of this. We're going to have to monitor that pretty closely and see what it tries to do over the next few scans. But then going back up, right now the primary concern is with this tornado-warned storm in Grant and LaSalle Parish. And again, that warning doesn't quite include Dry Prong. It doesn't quite include Colfax, stays just to the south, I believe, but Creola and Pollock, now is the time to be in your tornado safe place. And this storm, again, is moving off at about 50 miles per hour, but I am going to double check that real quick with the National Weather Service. So double checking that, yes, that's 50 miles an hour. We're going to get a new track on this area. Again, this is going to be moving towards Pollock. So if you're in Pollock and you're not already in your tornado shelter, now is the time to be there as this continues moving your direction. So Pollock, at the most, you have about 10 minutes. And then if this were to hold together, this will be moving a little closer to Gina in about 35 minutes. Either way, we're still talking, I know I've mentioned it a million times, but the damaging wind threat with these storms is very serious. A lot of these warnings are warned for winds up to 70 miles per hour. We're certainly seeing those signatures here on radar. That first severe thunderstorm warning, that also includes the tornado warned area runs through 1245. Wind speeds up to 70 miles per hour are expected with these storms as they move through. And like I said, that's really the case all the way down this line. Even that Rapides Parish severe thunderstorm warning includes Avoyelles, Beauregard, Vernon, also accounts for 70 mile per hour winds. And then that last warning, the wind's not looking to be as strong with that one. They're warning it for 60 mile per hour winds, and that is a little more evident there as well whenever we look at velocity. So it looks like that Rapides Parish tornado warning was allowed to expire, but for now we're going to stay with you for a couple more minutes as we have that new tornado warning out for portions of Grant and LaSalle Parish. I will say that area did look a lot more defined near Boyce. It looked a little more concerning. But now as it continues moving off to the northeast, it doesn't look as defined as it was just a few moments ago. Kaylee, what are you thinking on that?
I agree with what you just said fully. As I was just looking at it, I'm not even really seeing much rotation there, if really anything. I mean, definitely still pretty strong winds out there. So as I know we have mentioned about 1,000,000 times, they really want to be cautious of those winds because, again, as I mentioned multiple times, they can be as dangerous as if there was a potential tornado out there. So you want to make sure to get to that safe place because that flying debris really is no joke. It can cause some pretty serious damage. So even though we aren't seeing any super distinct rotation at this time, we are still seeing the signs of those super strong winds. So that is something that we'll continue to monitor as the system progresses. But that's really all I have at the moment. Not really seeing much in terms of new data given to us from the National Weather Service. But of course, those winds are very strong across the region. So we'll just need to keep that in mind as this continues. But yeah, Jake, back to you.
Thank you, Kaylee. And just checking in here with the National Weather Service, saying what new information that they have, and they're kind of saying similar to us, that damaging winds here is really going to be the biggest threat right now, at least in Rapides Parish. We will have to watch, especially some of these southern areas, see if they try to tighten up. And then also, like I've been mentioning a little bit before, on first alert radar, we have certainly seen some what appear to be some signs that this could try to strengthen back up, maybe see a little bit of rotation within that. So for now, that's not a big cause for concern, but we're monitoring this closely. Right now, the only reason that we're still sticking with you and not going to our noon newscast is because of the new tornado warning that was just issued a couple moments ago for portions of Grant and a very small sliver of LaSalle Parish. It looks like the National Weather Service will continue that tornado warning. For now, that runs until about 12:30. So this right here is the area of focus. It's just south of Dry Prong. I believe that is, let's see what highway this is, 167. So it's not going to be much longer before this ends up crossing 165. And again, that's running pretty much parallel with Louisiana Highway 8. I will check within that latest update and see if we have any updates on the storm speed. I'd imagine it's moving pretty similar. It is still moving off to the east about 50 miles per hour. So go ahead and get a new track on that and talk about the areas in the path of this storm. So that would put this near Pollock in about 5 minutes, Reinhardt in about 35 minutes, Utility in about 42 minutes, given that this holds together. And we could see this strengthen back up once again, but not entirely sold at this point that it will survive for much longer. It is still a credible enough threat. We have the tornado warning still in place. You still need to be in that tornado shelter. But for now, definitely looking at maybe some more promising signs as the storm moves a little closer to Pollock. So again, Pollock, you're going to want to be in your tornado safe place if you're not there already. That area of rotation that we're watching is kind of near Bentley, near Sand Spur. I'll go ahead and see if we can't read off some road names. Near North Tower Road, near Dyson Creek Road, Walker Road, near the community of Antonia, near the community of Farmland. There's Allen Road right here. If I named any of those road names, this is relatively close to where we have that area of rotation right now and where it will be moving towards. So again, if you're near the community of Pollock, Sand Spur, Antonia, Farmland, now's the time to be in that tornado safe place. And then this tornado warning does continue into a very small sliver of Grant or LaSalle Parish. Here's the parish line right here. And again, it doesn't include much. It includes a small portion there of Louisiana Highway 8. We'll zoom in here. It barely includes White Sulphur Springs. Fish Creek Road near the community of Halcott. That is on the Grant Parish side. So I'm going to move this down a little bit more and see if we can't get any more names. So this is, again, a pretty rural area of LaSalle Parish. This doesn't include the bigger areas like Gina. This doesn't include Alla. But once again, monitoring that pretty closely. I do think now we might have the storm tracker up, so whenever y'all are ready, we can go ahead and take that for just a minute. Okay, so looks like we're working a little bit more on that shot. Kaylee, I did notice you had a wind gust graphic up, and one thing that caught my eye was that the storms aren't quite to Alexandria just yet, and we've had some pretty impressive wind gusts. Can you fill us in a little bit more on those?
Yeah, so if y'all can pull up this graphic, yeah, here we go. So we're seeing gusts, as we just saw on the radar, that storm isn't really made its way here to central Rapides Parish yet, but we're seeing gusts about 52 miles per hour straight out of the south here in Alexandria. The rest of us, it's not looking too bad for a lot of the region, but then as you get down here to Opelousas, we're seeing about 41 miles per hour, but as we know, they have not seen that storm, that main line of storms either. That was actually earlier on this morning, but at the moment, of course, we are still going to be monitoring those wind gusts.
Has been issued for your location.
Just got some, okay, that was just an update for the severe thunderstorm, but all right, there's the current wind speeds. This is the sustained wind speed. So we were just looking at the gusts. These are the current sustained wind speeds, about 20 to 30 miles per hour for the most part. I mean, a little bit lower as you go toward western parishes. That main line of those storms has already passed over. But we'll continue to see these winds very elevated towards a more central and western parishes. So again, please keep this in mind. Those gusts are going to be very strong ahead of the line of storms and as it moves over. So this is a little update of where that is. Let's go to right now. So that's making its way towards Alexandria. It's not yet passed over, but it's just to our east. And this is that main area that we're, the reason that we are live right now into midday. But this is that area. We can look at that rotation, see if it's looking any better, because as we just saw, it wasn't looking too distinct. Really still not seeing much in terms of rotation within that region. It's looking like maybe right here is kind of that main area we are looking at. Yeah, there we go. So to the west of, what is that, Highway 165. Even if we don't see distinct rotation, of course, those winds are still very, very strong. Zooming out a little bit to look at the remainder of the region, I'm not seeing anything that's looking too concerning at the moment, besides right over here along Rapides going into the border of Vernon, Allen, parts of Beauregard. That's looking like some pretty strong winds along this line right here. So even though obviously no rotation right along this line, those winds are very, very strong. So please make sure that you are prepared for those strong gusty winds. Could see those gusts 50 miles per hour, possibly more than that, as we have seen the past hour or so. So that's really all I have to add at the moment. Not seeing too much activity from our National Weather Service offices. I did see 5 minutes ago they continued this active tornado warning that we're seeing over in Grant Parish. But that's really all that I have at the moment. It moved over, they moved over the warning. There we go. You can see it a little better. Pollock is right in the center of it. It does extend a little into LaSalle Parish now. So that's something to keep in mind if you are over near central and western LaSalle Parish. We could see the storm headed y'all's way. So just something to keep in mind throughout the next 20 to 30 minutes or so. But that's all I have at the moment. Jake, back to you.
Thank you, Kaylee. And I think here at any moment, we'll have the storm tracker feed up. So just let me know when that's ready. We can go ahead and we'll go ahead and take a live look right now at the storm tracker. Right now, they are in Pineville right now along Highway 28. And that's where the rain is starting. As you can see there from the dash cam, the rain is starting to fall there, but they have not even got into the heaviest of that rain just yet. The winds will likely be picking up here pretty soon along that area as well, in addition to the heavy rain. So we're going to be monitoring that area of the storm pretty closely. Right now, especially to Alexandria, keep in mind, though, the strongest of the winds have not reached just yet. I know Kaylee just showed the wind gusts a moment ago, gusting to 50 miles an hour out of the south. And that was before. So the winds blowing out of the south tells us that that's before that line really caught up with it. So winds are about to pick up once again in relation to the thunderstorms as they continue moving through the Alexandria Pineville area. And we're seeing those gusty winds across a lot of the viewing area right now. There was an area I was watching down here towards Elizabeth a little bit ago. Looking here to see, it looks like Natchitoches Parish has been trimmed out of the tornado warning. Still kind of monitoring an area near Elizabeth. Not the tightest rotation right now, but definitely watching things down there. Strong winds, like I've said, expected either way. We'll go back to that tornado warning real quick in Grant Parish and get a new track on those storms. So right now, that area of concern would be right over Pollock. Let's see if I can get that to pull back up here real quick. That area of concern, again, right over Pollock right now, and that's going to be moving off to the east and northeast at about 50 miles per hour. So if this holds together, which at the moment I don't have a lot of confidence that it will, that will put it into Catahoula Parish within the next little bit. Let me zoom that back out though, get a better track on this. Again, like we've been saying today, these storms, they're moving super fast. If you get the warning, that's the time to take shelter. Don't wait, even if you see you might have 15 minutes, for example. Now, that's not, don't wait 15 minutes to get into that tornado safe place. Here's that area of rotation that we're watching right now. It's pretty, at least winds going toward the radar, pretty dull, but again, located pretty much right over Fishville. That'll be moving toward the Reinhardt area in about 30 minutes or so. Very, very unpopulated area of LaSalle Parish this is going to be moving into. And right now the warning does not include anywhere on the map beyond Fishville. So we'll have to wait a couple moments and see if the National Weather Service plans on extending that tornado warning into LaSalle or further into LaSalle Parish. But for now, that existing tornado warning goes until about 12:30, I believe, and only covers a small portion of LaSalle. I'll actually redraw that track to better fit the warning cone a little bit better. Again, this is moving off about 50 miles an hour. So White Sulphur Springs, that is within the warning box right on the edge. This will be moving towards you in about 7 minutes. And then if it were to hold together, Gina, in about 20. But once again, it does look like maybe the tornadic threat with this could be winding down sooner rather than later. Still some signatures here. I mean, First Alert Radar definitely saying the hooking on the reflectivity of the heavier rain. That is kind of an indicator there of rotation, and still seeing some weak rotation on the radar, but also it's starting to broaden out as well. You'll notice how it's not very tight. The reds and greens are not very concentrated in one area, but kind of look a little more like a bean shape. That generally is good news. That's what we want to see, because that generally means that the likelihood of a tornado at that point would be going down. So I'm going to check things here real quick, see if we have some new updates. Doesn't look like we have an update yet on if they plan to continue that warning, but it is getting pretty close to the edge of that warning box. Go ahead and ask that real quick if they plan on continuing the warning. So we're going to be, again, that's the storm we're watching, and if we can see that tornado warning be allowed to expire, then we'll likely be sending it over to midday here within the next few minutes. So we'll get an answer back on that here shortly. Juggling things here between, we're very fortunate to have several Weather Service offices that cover us, so having to juggle between the different information from all parties. The heavy rain is going to be coming down here at the station here in just a moment. Let's see if we can go back. We'll take a look at the big picture here across central Louisiana. So right now we've got the one active tornado warning and several severe thunderstorm warnings. At least Rapides Parish North, we could see winds in excess of 70 miles per hour in the strongest portions of these storms. So even without the tornado warnings, we could still see power outages. We could still see downed trees. So still something to take seriously. You want to be away from windows on the lowest floor of an interior room. We should be able to get a good view there from Marksville here in just a moment. And I do actually want to switch over to our First Alert weather cam real quick while we wait on a response from the National Weather Service. You can tell the heavy rain's coming down there. This is our new camera over at the Alexandria Airport, and the wind there shaking those cameras as well. We'll stay on a view of that here for just a moment while I switch that camera over. We can also take a look at our tower cam here on the roof. See real quick if we can't get this to launch. So it looks like I'm having trouble getting into that. We'll try again in a few minutes. But for now, we've got heavy rain. We've got the strong winds with these storms as well. And we have that one active tornado warning that hopefully will be set to expire here shortly. It looks like we're still getting some reports of stronger winds within these storms as well. We do still have a tornado watch, and we have another tornado watch coming down more than likely. So this tornado watch for all the parishes you see here in yellow, that runs until 3 o'clock this afternoon. The severe threat, though, is winding down for Vernon, Sabine, and Natchitoches. I would not be surprised to see those dropped from the watch sooner rather than later. Then on the other hand, right now, Concordia, Catahoula, Avoyelles, and St. Landry are not under a tornado watch, but there's a 95% chance of a tornado watch being issued for them here very shortly. I'm sure that the National Weather Service right now is kind of coordinating with the Storm Prediction Center on issuing that watch as the storms are getting pretty close. So that is kind of the latest right now. The latest info as far as watches and warnings are concerned, and we're really getting to the edge of that warning box, like I've been saying. So we're going to have to see that warning either be allowed to expire or extended shortly. I do want to go back here real quick. Have it pulled up here, our max wind gusts for today. And again, we've seen some pretty strong winds out ahead of those storms. That 53-mile-an-hour gust here was recorded before the storms arrived in Alexandria. That 70-mile-an-hour max gust was in Leesville, kind of near the Fort Johnson area, as the storms were moving through. And then we have gusts 30, 40, 45 miles an hour. So winds have been very strong today. I know that has been, if you've been outside today, you have noticed the winds being as strong as they are. We still have a high wind warning in effect. That runs through the rest of the day today. Through about 6 o'clock for the pierces you see shaded here. Those not under the high wind warning or under a wind advisory that will also be allowed to expire this evening. Sounds like we might have had something come in. Looks like the National Weather Service in Lake Charles confirming that the tornado watch will be extended to cover the rest of South Louisiana. So that's a little beyond our area. But that new tornado watch should be coming out shortly. So if we don't have an additional update on this storm here within the next few minutes, we'll go ahead and go into midday. We're going to give this another scan or two, another radar scan or two before we officially transition into midday. So we're going to monitor things. We're going to stay with you here for a couple minutes and then go ahead and send you back. I do want to kind of look through the line here, see if there are any signatures that look a little bit interesting. I know I was looking at an area near Elizabeth a little bit earlier. Definitely seeing some, we don't like to see those winds close to each other like this. This is not the tightest, but it certainly is something that's going to have to be watched. That was that area I was focusing on a moment ago. On first alert radar, the signature, though, not as defined, but once again, still going to be watching that as it now approaches portions of Rapides Parish. The rain is really coming down out there. We can hear it on the studio roof. We'll go back to that area of concern in portions of Grant Parish. Go ahead and get another track on that here real quick. Looks like that is pretty much right across into LaSalle Parish at this time. So right, it looks like that wanted to change on me. Let's go back. That area of rotation right now is just over the LaSalle Parish line along Louisiana Highway 8 near White Sulphur Springs. Kaylee, I'm going to send it back to you real quick. Any thoughts, any updates so far?
So looking at velocity, it's not looking too impressive. I mean, you can see those super strong winds over here. Let's see what Max is showing those winds as. Seeing about 70, 75 miles per hour potentially. And then some other thing I wanted to point out, but looking at, so looking at velocity, not seeing super distinct rotation, but then actually looking at the current reflectivity, that's actually looking a little bit more interesting than that velocity. You can see how it's bowing out. Let me get this pointer up right here. So how it's bowing out right there, that's definitely something to keep an eye on, although we aren't seeing that distinct rotation, of course. That's another sign that we are seeing some super strong winds within that area. I mean, as I just pulled up that velocity, it was showing about 75 miles per hour. So even if we don't see that rotation again, this is something to keep a very, very close eye on. Still seeing about 75 miles per hour along this line, 70 to 75. So of course, this will be something that we'll keep a close eye on. We can zoom out real quick and see if the National Weather Service has anything new, but you can see exactly where we are looking at that live tornado warning. This is why we are not currently on midday at the moment, but nothing super new from the National Weather Service office. Just going to continue to monitor this area right there within Grant and moving into LaSalle Parish. It's looking like it's a little bit more into LaSalle Parish now and northeastern Rapides. So we're looking south of Gina, north of DeVille. Yeah, we can get that reflectivity because we can kind of see it a little bit better on there. You can definitely see how it's bowing out. Let me get this pointer up real quick one more time. How it's bowing out right there, that's kind of the area that I am personally most concerned with at the moment. It's looking like it's leaving that current tornado warning. So we'll just have to wait and see if the National Weather Service office does allow that warning to expire, if they do extend it. But that's really all the new information that I'm seeing at the moment. but we can just look at those current wind gusts one more time. We're now starting to see them increasing a little bit more for more central and our eastern region, now up to about 37 miles per hour over in Natchez, 45 now down in Opelousas, and of course still 52 here in Alexandria. And you can actually see those winds are starting to shift a little bit here in Alexandria. They're a little bit more out of the northeast, out of the northwest. So you can kind of see that frontal system that is bringing us these strong showers and storms are finally starting to get us some northwesterly flow. That's going to help to improve things significantly heading into our Wednesday, but of course we will still keep a very close eye on this as the system continues to progress throughout the rest of your Fat Tuesday. But we can get that reflectivity up there one more time to show exactly what we are looking at right now. So it's this area right on that border of Grant going into LaSalle and northeastern Rapides Parish. So that's the main area we're looking at. The primary threat at the moment is going to be strong damaging wind gusts. However, we are still watching for the potential of rotation, but that's really all that I have at the moment. We'll continue to monitor what the National Weather Service office says, but yeah, we can go ahead and send it back over to you, Jake.
Thank you. We do have some new updates that just came in. The first one being a new severe thunderstorm warning. That's in place until 1:30 this afternoon for Catahoula and Concordia Parish. The National Weather Service in Jackson tagging this for a possible tornado. Then we have a new tornado watch, and I'm not sure if it's going to load up for me here, but that tornado watch is going to be in place for Catahoula, Concordia, Avoyelles, and St. Landry Parish, and that is going to run through 7 o'clock tonight. So as it stands right now, I don't know if this is going to load up yet, and it does look like that new watch has loaded in. All of central Louisiana now under a tornado watch through at least the middle of this afternoon, if not the early evening. That being said, though, we'll go back to first alert radar, kind of recap everything real quick. As far as the severe threat goes, Colfax, Fort Johnson, Manny, Natchitoches, you're pretty much done with the threat for severe weather for today. And I do expect that we'll start to see parishes starting to get dropped from that watch as this line continues progressing off to the east. That being said, though, Alexandria right now, we should be starting to see the brunt of those winds start to wrap up and move off to the east. Still going to be dealing with heavy rain for a little while, though. The areas east of Alexandria, east of Gina, and to Oakdale and east as well, still are going to see those strong to severe storms over the next hour or two. The good news with these, they're moving pretty fast. They've moved in pretty quickly. They're going to continue to move out very fast as well. So the winds and the heavy rain not expected to last for a very long time. Again, these are very quick moving storms. So that's good that we can go ahead and get those out of the area here pretty soon. I'm going to double check here. It looks like at this time that tornado warning is going to remain active, but at this point that area of rotation it's essentially on the edge of that box, and also we're starting to see it weaken pretty substantially as well. So we're going to go ahead and send you to break here for just a minute, and we'll see you back here for News Channel 5 midday when we come back.